Everybody, this is Dream, and I hope everybody had another good day. It's been a great week so far for college basketball and for NBA, so let's go ahead and get into the slate here. Before I get started, though, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? So let's go ahead and get into the slate here. So I'll look at DraftKings and then FanDuel at the end of the video. So let's look at an injury report for the Pistons. Burks, Ivy, and Joe Harris are out. For the Hornets, Rozier's out. For the Nets, Cam Thomas and Claxton are out, and Ben Simmons and Cam Johnson are questionable. For the Pelicans, Zion is questionable, Jones is questionable, and McCollum is out. For the Rockets, Thompson is out, and Sengun is questionable. For the Jazz, Kessler remains out. For the Grizzlies, Morant, Clark, Adams, Tillman, and Rose are out, and Zaire Williams is questionable. For the Clippers, Plumlee is out. For the Mavs, Lively is questionable. For the Lakers, Davis is questionable, and Vincent and Vanderbilt are out. And for the Suns, Booker is out. And for the Kings, Fox and Lyles are out. So let's get into our guards here for this slate. I don't love this slate, I'll be honest. It's kind of rough, but I think it's going to be interesting scoring on this one since it's rather larger. And so that does give it some utility here as a good slate, but it definitely has a little bit of lacking in the value department, as well as, a lot of the value plays have come up in price a lot. So let's go and get into our point guards, though, and see what we have to work with here. So we're going to start with LaMelo Ball for Charlotte. Now he's facing Washington, who he dominated last game. His price jumped up over $1,000 from his last game, so do keep that in mind. He did display them as well, so he might have a little bit of regression. It's hard to say. He didn't really get any great stats that game except for points, so he definitely is capable, though, of a big game here. And his price is obviously maxed out, which carries the risk. Then we're going to look at Maxey for uh, Philly. Now, Maxey has been really good so far this season. He's been over 45 fantasy points in all but one game, and his price is still at 8,100, which seems a little strange, but this matchup is decent for him, and so I look for him to have some nice upside in this game. He has been playing very well and really consistent too, so I really like that here. Then we're going to look at Drew Holiday for Boston. Now he's been inconsistent with the scoring in regular points, obviously a little bit lower than what we probably would expect from him normally. But with all the stars on his team, he's not going to get as many shots. However, he is playing well, and he's getting a lot of rebounds and assists, so boosting his fantasy production. He's averaging 34 fantasy points a game, and he's sitting right at $6,600. So he's definitely a viable play on the slate. Has some nice upside and a good matchup as well. So I do think he's somebody that I like quite a bit today. Then we'll look at Derek White for Boston as well. He's been kind of sneaky good so far this season. He's the fifth starter, but he's been playing very well when he's been healthy. Do keep in mind he had a couple games where he wasn't as healthy, so and those were his worst games of the season so far. But he definitely has some good upside in this matchup here, and with a nice potential. Then we'll look at Mike Conley for Minnesota. Now he's been playing fairly well this season. His price is about as low as it's been all year too. And he's been over 20 fantasy points in all but one game. He has good upside in this matchup in the team. He's averaged 35 fantasy points against last season. Then we'll look at Keontae George for Utah. He's one of the few value plays that really looks pretty decent today, as his price is still pretty good, though it has come up some as he started last game. If he continues to start, then he'll be somebody to consider today, as he's had really good assist numbers in the limited minutes he's played so far this season, and he has some good scoring potential as well. So also consider Fred VanVleet and D'Angelo Russell at this position. Looking at our shooting guards here, we're going to start with Desmond Bane from Memphis. Now he is pricey today. He's had some ups and downs this season, but so far he's growing into the role for now. At least until Morant is back, he has big time upside here, and that gives him the potential on this slate. Cade Cunningham also in play for Detroit. Now Cade has been really good so far this season. He's been comfortable scoring 20 points per game, and that's giving him a lot of good fantasy output games, top tier output games, and his price is still good right now, so take advantage. I don't expect him to stay under $8,500 for long. I'm actually surprised that he wasn't over 10K today. Drew Holiday can obviously play at shooting guard as well. Then we'll look at Jalen Green for Houston, also a great option today. He's played really well so far this season. His price still remains fair. He does have a low floor, but he's been paying off in most games he's played so far this year, so that gives him a lot of potential in this slate, though he does carry some risk. He has been playing well enough that I think he's a great option for a small slate, for a moderately sized slate today. He looks like a decent guy to kind of give you some cheaper opportunity today. Then we'll look at Derek White again, who you can play here at this position. A couple of value plays for shooting guards. Kevin Huter, he's been inconsistent, but he does tend to be a streaky player. But with Fox out, he has got a little bit higher usage, which has given him some more shot opportunities. And he is actually getting enough rebounds and assists that help him pay off as well. Obviously, he does have a very low floor, but he does have a good ceiling today, especially with Fox out on the slate. And then Luke Kennard for Memphis has played pretty well the last couple games as he's getting more minutes. As long as he continues to get these minutes, and he's going to be somebody to consider as he is getting over 20 fantasy points a game when he gets over 25 minutes. So I do think he's capable of a big game here, and his price is still pretty good for what he does. You could also consider D'Angelo Russell at this position, moving into small forwards. We're going to look at Azura Thompson for Detroit. Now, he's been a very capable player so far this season, one of the few rookies that have been largely consistent. His price has popped up a little bit as a result of his play, but he is capable of a good game, and he is a little bit annoying to roster as a result of that. But the thing is small forward is really limited today, so he definitely has some utility on the slate, and he's priced pretty fairly, just the same. He has good upside too, and he's one of the few rookies that have been really good so far. Then we'll look at Gordon Hayward um, for Charlotte. Now, he is probable to play today. Um, he should play though, and he's been very consistent so far this season with a lot of good games. He's been in double figures every game, and he has some nice upside here. Though he does be a little paused because he doesn't always have the consistency. But his price still being okay here, he definitely has some utility on the slate. You could also consider Denny Avija, Kyle Anderson, and Derek Jones Jr. at this position, that they all carry some pretty high risk today. Then we'll look at our power forwards, and we'll look at Jaren Jackson Jr. From Memphis. He hasn't blown up like a lot of us thought he would this season to start, at least with Morant and Adams and stuff out. But he's still been capable and good. His price is still pretty fair, so even though his floor has been lower than we'd like, he's been in the mid 30s. He's definitely got some potential for big games in certain situations. And he did have a tough game against Utah last time, where he only scored 33 fantasy points, but he's been getting better scoring wise, been over 25 and for the last 5 games, and so that does give him some utility here, and he has some nice upside. Kyle Kuzma looks like a really good play today for Washington. Now, he had a monster game against Charlotte last game where he scored 51 fantasy points. I look for him to attempt to repeat that. His price has come up a little bit, but it hasn't come up as much as I expected it to, and so he's definitely a viable option on the slate. Azura Thompson and Gordon Hayward could also play here at this position. And then PJ Washington for Charlotte is in play, as he's got some really good metrics here. He's played fairly well, though. His price has come up some as a result of the price, so he's not a must play by any stretch anymore. But he's playing pretty well, and he has some nice upside in a very plus matchup. You can also consider Kevin Durant, Kyle Anderson, and Denny Avija at this position as well. Moving in their center might be the best position on the slate, ironically, as they got really good options, several great options across the price ranges, which actually is kind of annoying because you can only put up to 2 centers in your lineup, but there's definitely some good options today. Joel Embiid is definitely one of them, though he is very expensive. He's been playing very well, and he is the second man, with Maxey here. Those two are going to dominate the fantasy aspect most games for this team, and he's playing really solid with 5 straight double doubles, including some really good monster games. He definitely has high upside even at this price, but his floor has still been a little bit lower than we'd like. But he's definitely capable on this slate in a plus matchup. Nurkic for the Suns is kind of risky today. Be careful of chasing recent bias, where he had a huge blow up game last game. He still has a low floor, though he's been having some good games. As long as Booker is out, that actually gives him some more usage and gives him some potential. And if he gets some rebounds, then that definitely helps. He's also been passing the ball very well so far this season, which definitely gives him a high floor. So he's been playing pretty solid. His only bad game was against the Spurs a couple games ago, so he's still capable at this price point, but if he gets too much more expensive, he'll be harder to roster. Then we'll look at Gobert, who is actually underpriced today for Minnesota. He's placing the Spurs, who's been inconsistent, obviously, but Gobert has a good price here. He's got a good floor. He's only been under 34 fantasy points, which is what he needs to 5x today once on the season against Denver. So he's got a lot of upside. He's been getting double doubles every game except for that Denver game as well. And that gives him a lot of potential on this slate, which gives him some nice upside. Then we'll look at Jalen Duren for Detroit. Now he's been inconsistent due to his injuries, but he is been playing very well when healthy, and he looks like he's back to full strength. So as long as he's back, then he's going to have double double potential every time out. He's been playing very consistent so far from that perspective. So I do like his upside in this matchup, and his price pretty fair with Gobert. And then finally, Bismack Biyombo is kind of a value play for Memphis, though he's high risk, high reward. You do want to make sure he starts, but he's only played 2 games so far, but he's been pretty good in both those games. He's not a must play because his ceiling is lower than we'd like at this price point, but he definitely has a good floor on this one right now as long as he draws that start. So let's go ahead and look at our FanDuel plays real quick here. Um, and so we're going to start with the point guards. LaMelo Ball and Mike Conley, are the top overall options as they both carry a really good upside in these matchups. Marcus Smart and Cade Cunningham are good contrarian options on this slate at this position. Though I do like Cade Cunningham kind of sneaky today, especially at the price point here on FanDuel. Looking at our shooting guards, Jordan Hawkins is in play on FanDuel where he's not so much on DraftKings where his prices come up a lot. But he's still viable there on FanDuel. He's definitely a good play. Keontae George, if he draws a start again, will definitely be a good play as well. Azure Thompson's a little bit cheaper here on FanDuel, which gives him some upside. Same with Desmond Bane, both having some utility. And then you could also mix in Cade Cunningham at shooting guard if you wanted. Looking at small forwards, Kyle Kuzma and Desmond Bane are both good options on the slate. This position is a little bit better on FanDuel because you can mix in Kuzma here as well, but it's still pretty limited. I do like Gordon Hayward and Kennard as well, as Kennard's a little bit cheap and he has some potential here. But I think Kuzma and Hayward are probably my top two there at that position. Then looking at our power forwards, Jaren Jackson Jr., PJ Washington, and Kyle Kuzma all in play at this position. Though there's not as many good options at power forward today. But PJ is probably a great option as a value play, and then if you can mix him with Kuzma, that would definitely work out here. And then looking at our centers, Biyombo is a cheap option as he's pretty cheap here, though he doesn't need to start, and he does have a iffy floor. But Jaren Jackson Jr. and PJ Washington can also play at center. And then if you really want to pay up, then you can pay up for Joel Embiid at center and then pay down the other positions. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And have a nice day, guys.